right, welcome back to the Heener Dynasty podcast. We missed you guys. It's been a rough couple weeks, months, years, however long it's been. But just checking in, Mark, since you and I made a pact we weren't going to talk at all over this break. What have you been up to?
Well, it's crazy. I mean, we're coming up on like the 1 year anniversary of COVID here in like a week or two.
I'm pretty sure it already happened, Mark.
Well, like I thought the lockdown happened like officially, like in the teens of March.
Right, but wouldn't you consider like the date where the first occurrences happened the mark of it?
Okay, so would you consider the fall?
I would say like mid-January sometime, probably.
Okay. All right.
I understand you live in Pennsylvania and you guys didn't really ever take it seriously. So I assume that in your mind it didn't happen until like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. But is that what you're referring to, or?
No, I said the 1 year anniversary.
Okay.
But I don't know. I thought when we got like
we've been wearing masks since 2016 up here in New England. Okay, I don't know what to tell you.
So past the 1 year of it.
Yes. Sure. In a couple months.
So we went outside, got some fresh air. That was much needed. We officially hit feeling like spring again. So gardening with mom, hitting the drive range with dad. So it's been good. It shows what you were asking for. How
yeah, exactly. No, that was good. No, I've been good. Been working, doing my thing, staying indoors in my my hazmat suit at all times. So doing good. But yeah, we'll see. That's really. I mean, that's it. We'll talk to you guys later. This has been fun. This has been real. No, we want to talk. We want to get back into the swing of things. We want to talk about the upcoming NFL season. It's upon us very soon. Free agency opens up this upcoming week with the official legal tampering. Mark, what does that even mean as someone who's in the financial field and dealing with legal things? Like legal tampering, that feels like an oxymoron.
I do believe that's correct. I mean, you talked about it more intelligent than I did when we were preparing for this. So I'll kick it back to you here pretty quick. But I don't know. I think it's just like, they wanted to get going first week of, when they hit the green light. It always was happening. So
yeah. So it's more like the good old boys club, the non-spoken agreements that were going on. They finally said like, okay, let's just admit it. We've all been doing this. So now we'll make it legal to have those conversations behind closed doors. This is the official time when you do that. And then we'll sign the contract in like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So my question is, how many teams do you think are doing illegal legal tampering? Like it starts Monday.
The week before.
But today's Saturday, timestamp at about 5:19 p.m. here in the East Coast. So do you think anybody's talking to Kenny Golladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, or are they like trapped in a bunker somewhere until Monday at 4
Well, it
p.m.?
depends on when you start to consider when lockdown began. So it depends on how you track COVID to figure out how you
Fair enough. All right.
Yes.
As we digress.
So the targets. Do we want to talk about where we think these targets are lining up?
Yeah. I think. My only other note here was talking about whether or not you think there's going to be 16 games this season or 17 games, and what percentage would you give to there being another game added this season in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about this a little bit more than I had like really seen. Like for me, I haven't really heard anything about it for a little while. I really wasn't totally sure where we're at. I think it makes a ton of sense because, having it built in, I think it makes sense from people playing more. I think player safety is the only thing that's like against it, and I remember they were tossing around the 2 bye weeks, which I thought made a lot of sense. NFL gets more money with 17 games, 18 weeks. Players get more week of rest. Like I thought that made a lot of sense, but it doesn't sound like that's really being talked about much anymore.
I think bottom line, player safety. I think they will work around that by they'll take away some of the preseason games that don't matter and put in take away. It'll be like 2 preseason games instead of 4, and it'll be 1 extra game. So now they're technically even being safer because there's 1 less game. However, they make a lot more money in the regular season games. It's up bottom line. It comes down to money. It comes down to the contracts. I will tell you, I believe it's like 85 to 90% possible and most likely going to happen. So much so that I have already made the schedule for next year, assuming that there's 17 games. Cool. So we will now start our playoffs in week 15 instead of week 14 and finish in week 17 instead of the new week 18 because we're still not monsters. We're not going to make you play the championship game when half your team's sitting out because you have, playoff
having like Chad Henne in there
players. Yeah, exactly. So, and if you're currently in a league right now, this is for those guys who listen to this podcast. So there's like 2 of you that aren't in our league, and you're playing already on week 17. Don't tell your commissioners that anything's changed, and then now you'll finally be in a league that's doing it correctly. Because you guys have just been, quote unquote, ahead of the curve all this time, but it'll finally catch up. Don't let them get smart and add another game. You guys ignore it. Only those guys that have been doing it correctly need to add an extra game. So that's a little side note for your commissioners out there. All that to say, I also made one with our current setup of a 16-game season with the 3-game playoffs or whatever. So either way, we'll be prepared. We will release that once the NFL actually tells us what's going on. But stay tuned.
Yeah, it's not like I had an inside scoop there. Told you guys. We know.
You never know.
Was that?
Yeah. So let's do some free agency predictions. So since it starts up officially, legal tampering, yada yada yada, starts on Monday. Mark, I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through some of the bigger names and us to decide where we think they're going to end up. So I know you've done a little bit of research, so I'm going to kick it off to you. Give us some highlights. Tell us where do you think they're going, and then I will react and tell you where I differ.
Perfect. So we've got a ton of wide receivers. The 3 that we had called out, I went through and ranked them all. So we'll see how much time we want to spend to it, as we're talking. But we had Galladay, Juju, Marvin Jones as some of the top targets. He also got Will Fuller, Samuel.
Yeah, I didn't put him on there just because he's not all that he's cracked up to be, and I don't know. I feel like he had to juice just to like even be somewhat relevant last year. I mean, I think he's hiding something. Like, I don't know, the fact that he's injury prone and sucks. But yeah, we can talk about
it. If I could take so Galladay, Juju, Marvin Jones, Curtis Samuel, Will Fuller, T.Y. Hilton, Corey Davis, I would be excited with anyone except Will Fuller and Marvin Jones. Anyone else, I'm like.
You mean for the Washington football team?
Yeah.
So I would even take Marvin Jones personally. I still think he has some left in the tank, and I think he'd be a great compliment to Scary Terry. But I agree with you on the Will Fuller take. I'm not a huge fan. I'd be okay with any. I don't really want Ty Hilton. I don't even call him T.Y. Okay, Ty Hilton. He's washed, my friend. He's done. He makes AJ Green look like a freaking Olympic level sprinter. Okay, like they're both done. They're done.
Oh, I like him. I think you gotta get used to Phillip Rivers. Gotta get used to the new quarterback. Came on at the end there. I think he's still got some left in the tank.
Sure. Okay. Well, hopefully we can watch that on some other team. Maybe like the Giants. I'd love to see the Giants have to realize that he's already washed. But
All right. So some of the spots I see. So I see Galladay going to the Colts. They have the money. Carson Wentz, he gets to go to a contender. I think that makes a lot of sense to get like a real number one.
Okay.
So
what about the fact that Jason LaCanfora says that he thinks he's going to Washington?
I mean, I'd be stoked. I mean, I would love getting Galladay.
Yeah.
I think to me, just prior history of us striking out on the big net, the biggest targets. I don't. That was pretty much like a bias in that way. And like for him, being where he is, like I think the Colts are more advanced, like and ready to contend, in a higher degree, and they also have the money as well. Obviously, we have the money as well. But,
sure. So I guess for me, I don't want this segment to take too long because it's just conjecture and we don't know what we're talking about. But I figured, let's think of it this way: what's the dream scenario that you'd like to show up on the Washington football team, and then what's the most likely scenario? Who cares about the other teams? And then some of the big targets. If you want to talk where you think they'll go for it. But once again, it's really a secret Washington football team podcast.
What I would love to see if we came out with, personally, I love Juju. I think that he would be, I think he's very, very similar to Terry, both hard nosed, like play the right way, fun guys to have on the team. And Curtis Samuel reuniting with Scott Turner as like Argentino Gibson, the wide receiver crew. I think we get super dynamic with both those, and I don't see Curtis Samuel demanding top level kind of wide receiver salary. So I feel like that would be kind of my achievable dream, but definitely a stretch still.
Sure. Scenario. I guess for me, my dream scenario would be Kenny Galladay and or Juju Smith-Schuster. Those would be my top choices.
Yeah.
With a complement piece of Curtis Samuel and or Marvin Jones. Those are kind of like the A level and the B level. So I would like one of each of those categories. However, I have a feeling that of the A category, Juju's the most likely.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And I think he'd be, because of his role in the slot, he'd be a good secondary piece to Scary Terry. And then, but still unlikely. The most likely scenario is either a Marvin Jones, who I don't think will come to them because he's looking to play on a contender, he said. So ideal landing spot for Marvin Jones in my mind would be the Green Bay Packers. I think that would be a really cool place for him to land because he could be a huge dynamic piece for them, but he's not going to cost that much.
Yeah.
And then, so I guess ideally Curtis Samuel and Juju ending up on the Washington team would be pretty cool. But even if it's just Curtis Samuel, it's still better than whatever we were putting out there last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly would be more interested in adding either Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith personally.
Yeah.
And alongside of like a Curtis Samuel. I think it'd be cool to get a little bit of a heavier set out there, really play out having both Logan Thomas and another solid tight end, athletic,
I agree,
blocking tight ends, but also like predominantly receiving tight ends. I think that could really open up things too. But I guess we'll wait and see.
No, I like that a lot. Because then you got Gibson and Curtis Samuel going a lot of covering every bit of the grass, as they say. And then you've got a heavy to run up. I like that.
For sure. All right. Well, cool. I think we have ran out of things that we know how to say about free agents. We could talk about the running backs, but nobody really cares.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Ask you this though before. Who's older, Juju Smith-Schuster or Terry McLaurin?
I think it's Terry McLaurin.
Isn't that weird? I mean, like it's kind of like a setup question.
Yeah.
You knew where it's going, but
yeah,
weird.
But who's better at football?
I mean, I would say Terry. I think you've got Juju crushed it when he had Brown distracting, and then like he saw the number one, he digressed a lot, and you couldn't ask for Terry to be doing more work on. He literally was the passing game,
right?
So
I think it's hands down Terry.
Yeah.
The real question in my mind is who's better, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, or AJ Brown?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different styles there. I mean, I'm taking Terry as the rounded figure he is of the captain, the leader, the type of player he is. But I would say that both AJ and DK probably have more talent outright.
I guess time will tell. But, however, if you look at my dynasty team, only one of those is represented, and there's a reason I chose that one over those other two phonies. So because that was the only one available. But that's not the point.
That was standing.
Yeah. All right. So switching gears. Hey, so it's been a while since the playoff challenge happened, but we want to acknowledge who the winners actually were. The reason it took so long for us to do this is not just because of the offseason. The offseason was just a cover-up for the fact that Mark and I are both very disappointed because we both missed winning this or at least placing in this competition by a very small margin. One of us because of a stupid play on their part. Oh, I already figured this out before. I got to do this again. Hold on one second. So I'm going to do the cut because if I push it this way, it actually doesn't point at you. It points at me. So I have to go like this because it flips it. I think. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm going to try it. So, cut. So, Mark, we want to talk about the playoff challenge. I know it's been a while since it happened, but we want to take time to acknowledge the winners, yada, yada, yada. The real thing is, it took a little while for us to get around to the fact and admit that we lost. Because Mark and I both had a solid chance at the number 2, a 4th round compensation pick in this upcoming rookie draft. That second place finish, I lost by 2 points. Mark, you lost by more, but it had more to do with the fact that you forgot to set your roster. So,
wasn't I forgetting?
Would you like to
defend
20 yourself?
Seconds?
Yes. Yeah. You get 20 seconds to tell us why you're not an idiot.
So I think that, and that's, I mean, I'm not here to defend myself in that way. That can still be
15 seconds.
But the NFL app is pretty, I don't know, pretty terrible. I can never get to the right spot. So it's a delayed page. So I went through and put the lineup in, and pretty confident that I did hit submit.
4.
Though I think it was an old page and it carried through. 2. Would have had Fournette, Evans, Butker, second place.
1.5.
But I didn't go through.
All right. No, dude, I understand the problems facing the NFL app. It is
bad.
Hot garbage. But until someone else comes up with a viable playoff challenge, that's what we're going to run with.
Well, I think that was the only option I had seen. It was just an indictment of them.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I completely agree. And for me, Jared Burkholder, congratulations. We still haven't told him who won. So Pinor, first place. Happy birthday. You get a 3rd round compensation pick. Awesome. Compensatory pick. That's how you say that. Second place goes to Jared Burkholder. He gets a 4th round compensatory pick. And then 3rd place goes to Eric with only 2 less points than Jared. You get nothing. I get nothing, but just the fact that woulda, coulda, shoulda, I should have went with Bucks players instead of Packers players in the early rounds. That's all there is to it. We don't need to spend any more time on that, other than to let you know that if you're upset like Mark and I are, the next competition is right around the corner. March Madness is our 2nd round of the Please Don't Forget About Your Dynasty League and be involved. So March Madness Selection Sunday is tomorrow.
Okay. Tomorrow?
Meaning that
Saturday.
you got to set your bracket by Thursday. And we will be sending you an invite this weekend. We're going to do it through the Sleeper app just to keep it simple. So make sure you set your teams. Once again, first place will get a third round compensatory pick. That word is so difficult for me. I want to say compensation. I mean, I know it's the same word, but it's not. So first, third round compensatory pick. Second, fourth round compensatory pick. And on top of that, we also wanted to open up this moment for submitting rule suggestions for next season. So, Mark, do you want to talk through what we have come up with? Basically, we have 2 suggestions that we're going to put in, but we would love for it to be more than that. We know we've kind of hinted at this a little bit throughout the season, so now's the time to go check your notes and just tell Mark or myself or both of us or whatever, put it in the chat, just somehow get it to us, and we will submit it if we don't think it's stupid. So, like, for instance, Pino, or don't even try the kickers and defense. It's just not worth your time.
Just tired of hearing about it from him.
Yeah.
Just all the time.
But if you have any, like, actual rules you want to suggest, not like, I want to find a way to ruin your league by adding stupid positions, then we are all ears. But Mark, why don't you tell them what rules we are going to be submitting officially?
Yeah, so we've got 2, and we've centered around this in previous conversations around tanking and figuring out how we get the right person, the draft pick at the end of the day. So the one that's the lead here, that's lower effort, we've got the lottery pick, where the bottom 3 going to lottery, where if you're in the bottom 3, switch it up, hopefully deterring for us. The one that I was looking around to see how other people are doing it. There are other ones we talked about, named Gordon, about like the winner of the constellation getting first pick, but to me, we'll listen, but to us, I believe it's not rewarding the actual worst team to keep the equity there. So for one of the proposals that I've been seeing other teams deploy is just total points, where it's your starting lineup plus your bench throughout the season. And then like it's the truest, like how much potential does your team have for points, and the worst team being the number 1 pick. And obviously playoffs, it's just however you actually fall in there.
I was going to say, so there is one caveat, right, Mark? Because we don't want Ben Chapman to be able to win the first 101 pick every year, right? So like this past season, Ben Chapman, even though I don't think he had the actual lowest points, but it was a joke, guys. I'm sorry. But let's say for some weird, odd chance, you just made the playoffs, it's just the non-playoff teams we're talking about. Yeah. So there's not some like weird way that someone got everything fell to them just right, made the 6th spot in the playoffs, and then still had the lowest score in some capacity. It's just not playoff teams. Okay. All right. I'm coming around to it a little bit more. I will say, when I first heard this, I was not a fan, but yeah.
It is a lot of work. But sorry, just doing my quick math here, and no joke, Benjamin Chapman had, just to confirm, he was the 2nd lowest scorer. Third lowest scorer, and I think he got the 3rd. Well, he was in the top half of the playoffs. He was ahead of me.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how he did it, other than just like some weird karma or blackmail or something.
Yeah, it's because of all the times he's been roasted, and then now attention he gets.
We did this to ourselves, but anyway. So that's going to be going out. We encourage you. We're going to be bugging you because we don't want this to just come and go and not have any rule changes. We want you to be invested. So we will make sure to contact you and say, hey, do you have any rules? But feel free to not make us do that and just tell us what you have in mind. But on top of that, we're also going to be going through the schedule, the upcoming off-season schedule. So I guess we kind of jumped ahead of ourselves a little bit here. But like we said, March Madness bracket, that's the first thing coming up in the rest of the off-season. Starts this next coming week. After that, we're talking about the rules. Voting will happen during the tournament. So we will basically, by the time the tournament's over, we'll make sure that everyone's filled out we'll put out a Google form once the stuff's out or whatever. So we'll be corresponding through Slack and through Sleeper so that you have the actual dates of when all this is due by. But ideally, get it to us as soon as possible so we can get the ball rolling on this. There's only 12 of us. It shouldn't be that hard. But what we wanted to say was that we also are going to be voting when we do that voting submission on when we want our rookie draft for this season to take place. It's going to be taking place sometime during the week of May 9th through the 15th, I think is what Mark and I are aiming for. Because we want to just get things rolling right away. The rookie draft itself, the NFL ones, takes place April 29th through May 1st. So,
question for you.
Yes.
Do the amount of draft picks you own affect the weighting of your opinion upon the date of the rookie draft? I.e., this Seth will just gonna tell us when it is.
I mean, does it really matter? We probably should make sure Seth can be there. But no, I mean, guys, it's still a pandemic. Like, I know it's wrapping up soon, but even by then, I think you're all not going to have much to do. So there's only 12 of us. It's going to take like an hour. Like, just be committed. Yeah.
What about my Call of Duty Warzone time?
Well, you could technically play while you do your drafts based on the fact that you gave away most of your draft picks anyway. I think Seth's drafting for you, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. But yeah, so going through our list here, we got that. The NFL drafts, remember, that's when our third and final challenge happens for the offseason. Please stay involved, push. So we will predict the results of the first round of the playoffs together. I have to look up what we did last year, but we'll have something together for you. That one, we have 3 finishing places. So first place gets 15 fab added to your off-season budget. Basically, if you do well in this competition, we're rewarding you with being able to have a little bit more fun with the free agency period before the season starts. So 15 fab to the winner, 10 fab to second place, 5 fab to the third place finish. And once the rookie draft has taken place, that's when our free agency period officially opens for the offseason. And you will be given 50 fab to work with. And that will last until the opening of the regular season, which takes place preseason week 1.
Boom.
And then you'll reset to 100 fab or whatever. Once again, we'll tell you all this. You don't have to memorize this or like go back and repeat it. We just want to give you a general overview of what's to come. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about specifically, Mark? This has been more of like an informational upload for you guys. But
yeah, I enjoyed talking about what teams, what players Washington's going to get.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
good.
don't know.
I'm happy for you, buddy.
I think the one thing I want to mention, I'm kind of nervous we're not getting Curtis Samuel. I think he's going to Jacksonville. Go with Urban Meyer. They have too much money.
He is what he is. I'm really not that worried. I'm really not. None of this really matters unless they can find a quarterback.
You don't believe in Heineke?
I think Heineke is a possibility,
He
and I
deserves
like
a
that
shot.
we signed him. But I would like to have a little bit of a more of an insurance policy. Like if we decided to, like, I don't know, pick up like somebody's scraps, like Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. Like if one of those two decided, like, hey, you know what? Let's see if we can break the curse in Washington. I'd be game. I'd be okay with it.
Sure.
But other than that, yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind a Fitz Magic opportunity either. Not gonna lie, just for like 1 or 2 seasons. But without understanding that we'd be getting a rookie in the draft this upcoming year.
I'd be well. Now we're carrying. We have to start cutting people.
Sure,
but
Kyle Allen gone.
Yeah, I don't feel it anyway towards him.
Okay, so here's our closing thoughts, Mark. What's the quarterback room look like in Washington? What's your ideal situation? And let's just say like the 3 quarterbacks. What does it look like?
I think it's silly to talk about. I think Deshaun Watson we wouldn't get unless we trade like Chase Young or something. So to me, he's out.
Okay.
Russell already said his 4 teams. I think he's out. So like in my mind, it's either trade for Darnold with pennies, get him in there, and then hopefully draft a quarterback if we can and cut Allen. Or something that gets us temporary compete now and draft a rookie would be ideal.
But which rookie? Who are you going for?
I think that I think there's a shot that Fields falls enough that either we trade up a couple picks. That's not like a crazy haul. Like maybe into like the early teens, we get a trade up to like Chiefs did for Mahomes. I don't think I'm not ready for us to like sell everything to get to the top 3 picks to get one of those guys.
No, that's fine. There's more than 3 quarterbacks in this upcoming draft, right?
Yeah. What do you think?
Okay, so I thought you'd never ask. Thank you. I personally think that there's 3 possible rookies that could land with the Washington team. I think the most likely scenario is that if we were to get a quarterback, that it's going to end up being that 19 pick. I think it's going to be, if one of these quarterbacks is sitting there, that they'll take them. So that those 3 quarterbacks are Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, or Mac Jones. Of those, I would like Trey Lance the most. But I think the most likely scenario is that we get Zach Wilson or Mac Jones. Mac Jones is probably only going to be gotten in the 19th spot, but I think Zach Wilson could possibly fall into the 2nd round, and that's where we might grab him.
I'm down.
But once again, that would be for the future. I hope we don't see him this year if we draft a rookie quarterback. I'm cool with running with Heineke and a veteran player. I don't really want Heineke and Kylan Allen. I feel like they're kind of the same player. So I would prefer some sort of versatility of a Fitz Magic or even like Sam Darnold. I think that'd be a cool possibility as long as we're not like relying too heavily on that, but creating competition. Sure, all for it. But yeah.
I think it was fun to see.
I want it to be Russell Wilson. I want Russell Wilson. That's really all there is to it. 2012 all over again. We could have had him instead of Kirk Cousins, but we didn't.
Can you imagine? We don't trade all that for RG3 and get Russell Wilson.
Yeah. What could have been? All right. Well, this has gone on way too long. Yeah. The last part of this podcast, if you're interested, Mark and I did predictions before the playoff, or we went over what our predictions looked like before the playoffs finished, but I never put it up because I was, in shock for losing the playoff challenge. So
Yeah.
we will put that on as an ending. You'll notice like we look completely different. Mark's hair is 4 inches shorter,
Yeah.
and my beard is more gnarly because I've now made it into the spring specimen
Spring
that it
cleaning.
is. Yeah, spring cleaning on my face. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to. Sun's out, guns out.
There we go.
But yeah, if you're interested, that'll be the last part of this. Otherwise, you can just ignore it. But it could be pretty interesting. I know I'll be interested in seeing it because I don't remember what we said. So
I was gonna say the same thing. I really don't remember.
that's so sweet, dude. We're like 2 peas in a pod. We wanted to come together today, Mark, because we wanted to talk about our predictions. We want to talk about. We just wanted a chance to pat ourselves on the back for how well I think we did in our first year of coming up with some predictions for the NFL season, and then we're also going to present some NFL fantasy awards.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have our own little awards ceremony here. So what should we start with, Mark? What do you want to do?
I say we start with. I think we kind of warm into the to the awards. I feel like that's the ending here. I feel like we start with some of the hot takes.
Sure.
And then get into the awards.
Sure. So in no particular order, Mark, which hot take of yours are you the most embarrassed about? Let's start. Yeah, let's get rid of the worst first.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it. For me,
that Band-Aid off.
Yeah, it was God Turley. I don't know if there's any recollection towards the beginning of the year, and I really hyped him up as my catalyst for my team. That he would be like the flex or like second running back. That would be the difference maker for me. And while he was, I guess, technically my second running back, he was not the difference maker.
Well, he was the difference maker between you being a winner and you being the loser that you ended up being. But I definitely feel like he was Todd Gurley was much more of a turd than a god.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it looks like here you predicted he would be top 8. And
confidently, very confidently.
Very confidently. Yes, I remember the epic music that was behind you during your monologue. But what position did he actually end up in?
Finished at 23rd, which I think is probably where a lot of people would have put him ish. Maybe a little lower than when people were projecting.
So a back end RB2.
Yeah.
Marginal RB3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I didn't necessarily have any picks that I was supremely embarrassed by. I actually ended up being pretty fortunate. But I guess the one that I missed the mark the most would have to be, I said Matt Patricia was going to get fired by week 8. And he held on. He held on until week 12. It wasn't until he lost to Houston. And pretty much if you lose to Houston, you lose your job this year. Is what ended up happening, at least when Bill O'Brien was there. But so I mean, week 12, week 8, either way, I still predicted he wasn't going to make it, but I don't really feel like that's much of a hot take. It was more of a lukewarm take. I was more trying to pick like exactly when it was going to happen because I had a pretty good feeling that he just wasn't going to make it outside of the Lions pulling off a playoff berth this year.
Yeah.
It was between that one and then the other one that I was, I guess, mostly embarrassed by. Not really embarrassed, but more disappointed. Was that I predicted that I would have 3 wide receivers in the top, basically 3 wide receiver ones. So 3 top 12 wide receivers this year. And I was close. I had Devontae Adams. He ended up at spot number top ranked wide receiver for the year. I had Calvin Ridley from a trade from you. Thank you for that. Who ended up 5th for the year. And then I had 2. I had Terry McLaurin, who, if he hadn't gotten injured, I think he would have been top 12. But he was injured, and he had 87 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was going to say the quarterbacks.
So he ended up being 17th. And then Marvin Jones came in 18th for me as well. So so I was close, but no cigar. Did not have 3 in the top 12, but I did have 4 in the top 20.
Yeah. Pretty good consolation there. What's your favorite one? Your best one?
My favorite pick? Okay, so this is the one I'm most proud of because it's the most like stupid, outlandish one I could think of. But when I picked, I said that Tom Brady would throw more interceptions under his new coach in the Buccaneers. Yeah, with Arians, I said he's going to throw more picks than Baker Mayfield, which at the beginning of the year made me sound like a complete idiot. But guess what? This idiot was correct. All right. Tom Brady ended the year with 12 picks, and Baker Mayfield threw 8. This is regular season. If you include the playoffs, I think he threw a number more.
True.
Because he definitely threw 3 against the Packers. And I feel like he threw a couple in the first game too. But I don't honestly know how many Baker threw. I think I definitely know that he still threw more than Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I did not come prepared with the postseason numbers. But
by a healthy margin too.
Yeah.
4 more.
Absolutely. What about you, Mark? What are you proud of?
So I had a couple that are kind of combined where Newell would go from first to worst, and Chapman would have a better season than Newell. I think those were at the time not as obvious as they were after the fire sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I picked that. And then honestly, I think my more outlandish take that was pretty close was Fuller and Cooks. Neither of them even being a top 2 wide receiver 2. And if you don't include week 17, which is not a fantasy week, neither of them were. If you include week 17, Cooks with Fuller out had a big game, got 16th.
And the only reason that data is in there, so it's because I wanted to make you look stupid. But yeah, no, you're right. You ended up. I was surprised that ended up the way it did, because I thought for sure one of them was going to be a wide receiver too, make that top 24, but they just missed it.
Yeah.
So, hat tip to you, sir.
Thank you. Any other ones you want to call out? I'm pretty well content on my side.
Yeah, I have a couple more mentions. I have 2 more like bragging ones, and then I guess I'll just mention the last one too, just to be completely fair. So we'll do the one that I barely missed on was I had said that Hayden Hurst and Jonnu Smith were both going to break the top 10 tight ends this year. This is because they both were on Connor's roster. This is when we were doing our predictions at the beginning of the year. We were talking through team strengths, and I said, hey, I think this position might actually end up being a position of strength for Connor. I was close. Hayden Hurst actually ended it exactly at spot 10, so he made the cut. But Jonnu Smith, I mean, he started out on fire. He looked great at the beginning of the season, but the wheels fell off, and he ended up at 16. Which is pretty sad because, I mean, there really weren't that many good tight ends this year. So to be 16 in the tight end position is pretty much like being what my next pick was, Keyshawn Vaughn, 99th in the running back. So I definitely want to call out the fact that Keyshawn Vaughn, I said he is not going to be a top 24 running back this year. I said he's nonsense. He's gross. Will he be potentially decent in the future? Who knows? But Bruce Arians is notorious for ruining running backs. He doesn't play the right person. He definitely doesn't show any respect to rookies. You have to know how to block for like 16 years before he lets you run. Ronald Jones is the key example of that. A great running back, not a great blocker, not a great pass catcher, and he has been undervalued and underused for his entire career as a Buccaneer.
I would throw Leonard Fournette in there. I'm sure we'll get into that in a second, but
oh boy. And then the last one for me that just made me laugh. This was more just like a a self plug is when I made the hot take. Was I said that Marvin Jones will outscore Kenny Galladay in fantasy points this year. And sure enough, not only did he outscore him, but Marvin Jones actually doubled, more than doubled the amount that Kenny Galladay scored. We don't need to mention that Kenny Galladay got hurt halfway through the season. But the end of the year, 288 to 107. So
fair. I mean, that's the only reason that I got my Fuller and Cooks is that I count on them both getting hurt throughout the year. So
yeah,
that happened. PEDs, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping. I assumed that Marvin Jones was going to go off on Thanksgiving. He was going to get a whole bunch of points. So I was betting on that. I was also betting on Kenny Galladay getting hurt, and then on top of that, I'm curious to see. They're both free agents this year. What teams are they going to end up with? Is this another hot take that I can take on next year? Now that the Lions are doing a GM Newell level fire sale, who knows what teams they'll end up on? And what's your prediction? Who's going to get more money, Mark? Kenny Galladay or Marvin Jones?
To me, I mean, I feel like it has to be Galladay.
I know it's a stupid question.
Yeah,
Marvin Jones is like 87 years old, and he'll probably be wearing burgundy and gold. Would you accept him on the Washington football team?
For the right price. I mean, like we have plenty of positions to fill on the offensive side. So savvy veterans, and I really want to get Curtis Samuel with Scott Turner. I think that's going to be a nice value play. Kind of the, I guess, X factor role. Like, I don't know.
That could be a whole nother episode. It was like our dream decisions, GM making decisions for the Washington football team.
And don't get me wrong, I think we also need a real splash at receiver.
Or maybe a quarterback, like any quarterback.
Well, that's a given.
Okay.
That's coming.
Yeah.
But if we get a quarterback and a real receiver, I think East for sure. I think, maybe we're flirting with the title game.
We're just a couple players away. We need a quarterback, entire wide receiver core.
Maybe some more depth.
One or two linemen. We could use a middle linebacker.
Landon Collins, we're good.
Anyway, we'll move on. All right, so I think we hit them all. Those were our hot takes. Honestly, I'm pretty proud of us. I think we did pretty decent for our first year. We'll have a high bar for next year and start thinking of them now. It's going to be good.